What happens when a baby goat gets stuck and ends up with a really fat tongue? I'm going to share our story. G'day there, I'm Dana from Piwokaka Valley, and we have been really busy the last couple of days with baby goats being born, and two of our mums are first time mums. One of them, River, she's been in early labour for quite some time, and we've been watching her really closely. You can see in this footage that she's having labour, but it's not particularly effective. Her contractions aren't long and strong. After watching her until about midnight, I decided that it was time for me to go to sleep and that I would get up really early and go and check on her. And so when I got up at, I think it was about 5:45 this morning, I came down to her, and all I could see out her back end was a big tongue, a little nose and one hoof. Unfortunately, I couldn't get the camera to show you, but I did have to hook the other foot out, and then the baby was born pretty quickly after that. He's really huge, he's a big boy.
But it might just be that he's been sticking his tongue out for a very long time.
Yeah, maybe. And his nose and his tongue are all super puffy from being stuck, which is really, really common with goats that have a slow birth, or when they get their faces stuck while they're being born. It's really common to have a fat tongue. However, his tongue is really fat. So his tongue is so fat that we couldn't get him to latch. We've tried latching him on his mother. She will have nothing to do with him. We've tried bottle feeding him. We've tried syringe feeding him. I even tried latching him on Holly, our dairy goat, and she was really tolerant, but his tongue's so big and fat that he just can't latch at all. I have a tube and things to tube feed baby goats, and I've got a different one for feeding lambs that's a little bit bigger. And I even tried that with him, but because he can't swallow, because his tongue's so huge, it was really hard to know if the tube was going in the right place. He wasn't coughing, which is usually the sign that it's going in the wrong place, but I wasn't completely confident that it was in the right place either. So at this point we rang the vet, and the vet has suggested that we take him in for some anti-inflammatories to try and reduce the size of his tongue, and also to tube feed him. They'll use the laryngoscope so they can see what they're doing. So we end up calling the vet, and so we've taken him into the vet. What you got? The vet has given him some colostrum. She popped a tube down, and now he's been fed. You can see him standing on the vet floor talking to the baby, having a grand old time, but his tongue is just so big. They're not overly worried with him. They think that the anti-inflammatories will bring that tongue down. Usually if it's just a little bit swollen and they can still latch, it'll come down by itself within a day or two. But because his is so swollen, he can't latch and he can't swallow, they were a little worried about him. So they have given him some colostrum. They did have to use the laryngoscope to get over past his tongue, but he's at least had his first feed and he's doing well. And we've just brought him home, and Mum has finally passed the afterbirth. She's down here. She is not even slightly interested in the baby. The baby's over there in that little lean-to shed. So we're not entirely sure what we'll do with him. I guess for the next day or so we'll keep trying to latch him on Mum, and either tube feed him or syringe feed him until he can latch onto a bottle, or onto, maybe even we might be able to surrogate him onto Holly. We'll wait and see what we end up doing.